to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, could you please let the roll show that we are all present? And we're going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, going to move on to announcements. I think you said you had one, Patty?
I do. If you haven't noticed, you have not received your tax bill this year yet for your winter 2022, which is really should be out in the mail by December 1st. But with the transit millage that passed in Oakland County, they had to get it approved by the Board of Commissioners, and that took a week and a half, and then they had to decide how they were going to put it on each individual tax bill. So that delayed the process of our actual shell of our bill, and I got a call this morning that actually our tax bills are ready, so Kim and I will go pull them tomorrow, and they'll be in the mail tomorrow. So I have not experienced this in the 30 years I've been here, so it's very unusual, but they had two printing companies actually print the shells because they were so far behind. But everybody submitted their bills at one time, which is a little unusual, but they'll be there, and they'll be out tomorrow, so just wanted to let the residents know, and taxpayers.
Why do I do that every time?
I forgot to approve the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Patty. I missed the approval of the agenda.
Very excited to get into the body of the agenda.
I really was.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any others have any announcements?
John, we had a meeting, Chris Enlow, Chris Enlow, Leslie and I met with the members of City Council on the Sidewalk Pathway Committee, and we identified some segments that we think might be a nice collaborative project like we've done on some of our other sidewalk projects. So we're going through and identifying some segments that might be of value to residents from both municipalities.
That's good. It's really good.
John, I've got
Yes, go ahead,
three
please.
quick little updates. The 96 Flex route is on winter hiatus until the spring, so all the ramps and lanes are open. It is going to start up again in the spring and through 2023 and 2024 when they'll be reconstructing the westbound I-96 lanes. Second one is I attended the US 23 Flex Route open house over in Green Oak Township, and that is going to have some overlap construction that is also going to start next year in 2023, starting from I-96 and heading south on 23 all the way down to 9 Mile. And that is another 3-year project. So the freeways are going to have us surrounded with construction here. And lastly, the Road Commission for Oakland County is hosting an open house on Grand River reconstruction project just east of the township at actually Napier Road to Wixom Road. So that is right on our border, and that will impact the Napier Road Grand River intersection. So that open house is tomorrow at Wixom City Hall from 5 to 7 p.m. Okay. Anything else? I did have one announcement. Could you please delay them tax bills one more month?
No.
Just asking. Okay, anyone else? All right, we're going to move on to call to the public. This is where you can come up to the microphone and talk about non-agenda related topics, and please keep it within a 3-minute period. And please give your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to move on to reports. Amy, DDA?
Well, I apologize. It didn't look like the memo got put in your packets, but I printed out some hard copies for everybody tonight. But we did have 2 ribbon cutting events since our last board meeting. We welcomed John Weaker, State Farm Insurance, which was actually celebrating their 1-year anniversary at their location. But they just got around to hosting that ribbon cutting. And also we welcomed Lavender Dental. They've got a gorgeous facility, and there we were able to tour. They actually make some of their implants on site too, so it's a really cool facility. So be sure to stop by, say hello to them. We've got another ribbon cutting event that's taking place this Saturday, December 10th, from 11 to 1 with the ribbon cutting at noon, and that is for Hey Babe Beauty Bar. That's going to be located right next to Wholehearted Winery. They're a salon that does haircuts, styling, coloring, and they're going to most likely be adding nail services in the next couple of months too. So she's already looking to expand on some services. I was able to attend the Warbirds of Glory grand opening sneak peek event back on November 20th. They have a fantastic facility there. They've done a lot of work in that hangar. They even have a gift store in there with some items. It's all run by volunteers. They're looking forward to trying to work with some of the local students at the high schools here too. And they're hoping to offer a public grand opening event in this spring. So I'll give you more information as that becomes available. Also on November 16th, I had the pleasure to attend the 2022 Fall Desert Angel packaging event put on by the Kensington Valley Civitans. The township was gracious enough to host at their facility. We actually did the event right here, and they had their biggest turnout yet. They were able to package 232 care packages that went out to the troops overseas. It was a pile taller than me all put together, so it was a fantastic turnout. We had probably 40-some volunteers in there helping out. Also wanted to make you aware that we were really lucky this year. We had 3 companies join together to team up. Advanced Tree Moving, Bedard Shade Tree, and Troy Claude Landscape Associates. They coordinated the donation, transportation, and planting of a 16-foot Norway spruce at Inspiration Park this year, so that we can utilize it for our tree lighting ceremony this year and for years to come. So we graciously thank them for the help with that. And then Faith Lawn Care and Landscaping donated product and services to decorate the tree with lights for this year. So we're looking forward to seeing that take place at Light Up the Grand on the 10th. We also, the DDA had a float entry in the 2022 South Lyon Holiday Parade this past weekend, so we were able to go over and join them. Where we carried a banner advertising our Lighting Up the Grand this coming weekend. And that will take place this Saturday from 3 to 7 p.m. I included a flyer with all your packets. We've got it advertised on the fire department signs. We've got it on our social media. Please share the event information. We're hoping for a good turnout. It's supposed to be, I believe, in the 40s and sunny that day. So we should have a fairly nice night. In addition to the events that are on the flyer, we're also going to be hosting Spun Sugar, who will be selling cotton candy on site. We'll have the Grinch on site with reindeer and some special guests. We have music, character artists, kids activities. At 6 p.m. there's going to be a holiday dance performance by V's School of Dance, followed by the tree lighting and caroling. We are looking for additional volunteers, so we have a link to that on our social media. And parking for the public is recommended at Dolson Elementary, and we will be providing a designated street crossing at Shefco with assistance from the Sheriff's Department. So we look forward to seeing everybody out this weekend. With that, are there any questions?
Anybody? Sounds like a fun time, Amy. Great job. Okay, let's move on to the fire. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Wanted to start off by thanking the residents for passing the fire millage, and with that, we are going through the process of hiring 3 more firefighters, and I will keep you updated at board meetings as needed as we go through that process. I also wanted to introduce our fire marshal, Bruce Harbin, if you would come up. He was formally sworn in this afternoon by Michelle Cash, and he joins us with 20 years experience with Independence Township Fire Department and another 10 years with the Flint Fire Department, and he's been off to a great start, and I just want to welcome him to the community.
Thanks. Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Welcome, Bruce.
Hey, thanks. Just a couple quick words. I really appreciate the opportunity. You guys got a fantastic fire department and a fantastic community and a lot of growth potential here, and I'm just looking forward to fitting in and taking us to new heights with the fire department. So I appreciate all the opportunity, all the support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I told him he had to say something. Also, I want to let you know that this past Friday, we held our annual Christmas party where we awarded our Firefighter of the Year. And this year, it was 2 firefighters. One was Captain John Orzak and firefighter Ross Pajak for their life-saving efforts of rescuing the 7-year-old with CPR that I mentioned to you a couple months ago, and they were rightfully recognized and awarded the Firefighters of the Year for this year. Speaking of life-saving awards, I'd like Assistant Chief Madeline and Lieutenant Whitfield to come up, along with the members of the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department that were involved in the incident that I'm going to read and then award them with our life-saving award. So this incident occurred on November 11th. Lyon Township firefighters Sergeant Kelly Blades, Alan Clymer, Brian Holzheimer, and John Rosala were dispatched to the 59,000 block of Twin Pines Drive for an 82-year-old unresponsive male that was not breathing and without a pulse. Upon arrival, the firefighters found the Sheriff's Department deputies, Sergeant Joseph Fortier, Michael Knopp, Jacob DeRogers, Tori Tedderington, and Sandra Ostrand performing CPR on the patient. The deputies also applied the AED, delivering 2 shocks to the unresponsive male. Sergeant Blades, firefighters Clymer, Holzheimer, and Rosala continued to perform life-saving measures for several minutes before successfully regaining a pulse. The patient was then loaded and transported to the hospital by Huron Valley Ambulance. Without the excellent care and professionalism of the first responders, the outcome for this individual could have been much different. Lyon Township Fire Department would like to recognize Sergeant Kelly Blades, firefighter Alan Clymer, firefighter Brian Holzheimer, firefighter John Rosala, Deputy Sergeant Joseph Fortier, Deputy Michael Knopp, Deputy Jacob DeRogers, Deputy Tori Tedderington, and Deputy Sandra Ostrand with the department's life-saving award. Congratulations. That concludes my report unless there's any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I always say we have the best, and you never, ever, ever let us down. Thank you very, very much, you guys. It's wonderful to have you in our township and taking care of us. Thank you all so much. One more time.
And that is one more thing I'd like to add. After doing this job for over 35 years and working with great police agencies, law enforcement agencies, I've still never worked with a better group than the Sheriff's Office that we have here. Thank you.
It's wonderful. Thank you. Speaking of Sheriff, Lieutenant, come on up.
I don't have any awards. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'd like to give a couple of quick updates. If you all recall the incident that took place on the Huron River Trail with the assault back in 2019 of May, I'm happy to report that that matter has concluded. Back in October, myself and several members of my staff, about 50 or 60 of us, went down to court and we proceeded into trial against Christopher Simons. He was the male that committed the assault with a baseball bat. Christopher Simons was found guilty, and last week he was sentenced to 62 and 1/2 years for his part in the assault that took place in our township. So that matter's concluded after 3.5 years. I think it sends a stern message to anybody that thinks that they can come here and commit those acts of violence, that we'll catch them. We don't tolerate that here. Next up, be the body cams. As you can see, I'm wearing one. It's great. Yeah. Records for 56 hours. It's unfortunate that we're at a point in time where we need to be able to prove or disprove something didn't happen whenever we have a conversation with the public. But if the incident does happen it will be captured here. So don't be surprised if you see my staff running around extra nice, right? Because they're all happy. They're so happy. I spoke with the manufacturers of it, and they assured me that having this strong of a magnet by my heart won't cause any problems. So we're good there. And the last update will be Shop with a Hero. I believe I addressed it, but we didn't have the time in place. So it will be December 21st at 1:30 p.m. at our Walmart. So if you guys are in and around town, feel free to come by and say hello to myself and the fire department. We'll be doing what we normally do for the children here in and around the township. It's really
So it's going to be live this time at the store?
Yes, we're going to do it in person. I've already started the fundraising. The money should be coming in, so we'll see how much we have. But we're hoping to take care of at least 100 kids. So come on by. And that concludes my report. Does anyone have any questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Planning Commission.
All righty. We had 2 meetings in the month of November. The first one was Monday, November 14th. We had no public hearings, no old business, but we did have new business, which is the Aspen Trail PD that's on the agenda tonight. And it was just a conceptual review, so just comments from the Planning Commission. And then we had a meeting on, let's turn my page here, Monday, November 28th. I wasn't present at that, but Brian, there was just basically text amendments that you brought to the Planning Commission.
Correct. Yep. We are working through architectural design guidelines and some amendments to our landscape standards for tall buildings. Industrial buildings.
Yeah. All right, and that concludes my report. If anybody has any questions for me.
Okay. No. All right, move on to the ZBA.
Well, I was at my school's parent-teacher conferences on our ZBA meeting, so I missed it. I'm sure Brian can tell us the compelling events.
Well, I can try. There were 2 variance requests. One was the location of a pool, and it was ultimately tabled. The ZBA wanted some additional information. And then the other were side yard setback variances for the Langen piece right next door. Both were granted for the location of that building. So may, in the near future, be seeing some correspondence regarding that project. If you recall, the board asked for some additional information and easements be prepared by the owner of that, Mr. Langen. So that ZBA step is one hurdle for him before it comes back to the board.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh, John,
Go
additionally,
ahead.
our ZBA meeting for December has been canceled.
Oh, okay.
And we are still looking for a new member.
I think we might have one.
Never mind. You're right.
Okay. We're going to move on to the building. Dave, anything from the building?
Yeah, just some we had 228 total permits this month. This is October, by the way, so we just got back to work on December. So this is October numbers. We had 5 non-residential, 12 new residential ones. Certificate of occupancy, we gave out 32, so we got 32 new people in the community. And the other thing, we are way ahead of last year as far as total new residential, so 217 compared to a total last year of 162, and we still have 2 months numbers to come in. So it's going, I've noticed that the smaller homes are kind of slowed down a little bit, but the bigger ones are picking up. So, larger, homes like little Bartle homes and stuff is going. So we're still busy. So that interest rate's not scaring everybody. So hopefully we'll have another good year next year. We'll see.
Thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave? All right, I have an update for the water. Basically, our softening system is ready to go. It's completely tested. It's went through all its course. The DEQ, Eagle, has showed up on site. We went through a site inspection. They had a punch list. We've completed the punch list, and it's back in their hands. So the minute that they say, we're good, we throw the switch, and we're online. So we're just waiting for the gracious of Eagle. Everything is ready to go. And believe me, when that switch turns, you will all know it. You will all know it. You'll hear about it from the skies. Any questions?
Can you turn on the emergency sirens when the sun
I will.
goes on?
I'm in communication with Oakland County. They said they do that. I'd love to, really. I would love to. Okay, that concludes our reports. We're going to move on to the public hearings. We have 2 public hearings tonight. We have the CDBG public hearing, and we also have the hearing on our budget, 2023 budget. So the first public hearing, before we open that up, Brian will go ahead and give you the CDBG funds are something that's a little different. Not everyone understands them, so he will go ahead and kind of outline it a little bit for us before I open up the first meeting for comment. Brian?
Thank you, John. This evening, we're holding the public hearing as required for our CDBG funding for the year. This is an annual application that we prepare for the township, and the amount that we are estimating at this point in time is a total of $22,174. That number is subject to change when actual allocations come through from the federal government, but that is what we are using to estimate our request at this time. Similar to last year and actually several years, we've got 3 projects that we are recommending the township allocate money towards. The first is $3,500 of that towards Haven. That's a pass-through cost. It helps victims of domestic violence and their children provide services and temporary housing, things like that. The second project is for access fees for Lyon Township residents to the senior center in an amount of $15,174. And the last project that we're proposing is to continue our support of the youth assistance, South Lyon area youth assistance program, and that's for $3,500 as well. So these numbers are in line with what you have allocated in the past. I did get several questions asking why we're not contributing for minor home repair like we had done. It's probably been about 5 years since we've allocated money towards that program through CDBG funds. We are simply capped to 30% of your total towards public services. Thank you. I was completely blanking. Public services. So that's why we have those 3,500, the 7,000 is approximately what we're allowed for the cap for that. So outside of that, you've allocated it through your general funds, and we continue to get applications from your residents for that program. So.
Okay.
As part of that, you're required to hold a public hearing, and I will be submitting the application to Oakland County by December 23rd to meet their deadline.
Okay. Does everyone kind of get the gist of that? All right. That being said, then we're going to open a public hearing at 7:23. And at this time, anyone from the public who would like to stand up and ask any questions about CDBG funds, that'll be the time. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing at 7:23, and we're going to move on to the second public hearing, which is our mandatory budget public hearing for the 2023 budget. And this is just a time when the public can come up if they have any concerns or comments about the budget. Now's the time to come on up. And we're going to open that public hearing at 7:24 and ask if anyone has any questions, they could come on up and talk about it. Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close it at 7:24, and we're going to move on to unfinished business. Unfinished business has 2 second readings of amendments to our ordinance. The first one is the Code of Ordinance, Utilities. And again, I don't think either one of these have any changes, Carol? Do they? Okay. So a motion would be in order to pass these for...
I have a couple
Go
just
ahead.
quick housekeeping items in this because I didn't get a chance to look at it last week with the short turnaround with the packet. I can make a motion to approve this. Lyon Township Ordinance number 15-22 to amend Chapter 46 Code of Ordinances, Utilities with the following changes. Page 37, Section 46-332. It's just the abbreviation for milligrams per liter should be with an L, not an I. Page 37.
What section is that?
46-332. It's on page 37.
In the clean or the track change?
The track changes.
Oh, right down here.
Yeah, should be. And that just happens again on page 56 as well. And there's just, there's two instances of the Oakland County should be Water Resource Commissioner instead of Drain Commissioner on pages 39 and 48. And that's no fault of anybody here. They just tend to change their names every so many years. And then on page 42, the schedule of unit assignment factors, that should be referenced section 46-338. Instead of 339. And then finally on page 82, we should add the Huron River watershed as well. It references the Rouge River watershed. And we're also in Huron River watershed. That's just the beginning of article. Okay.
I was curious about that actually because it was the intent specifically scoped to a particular watershed for some sort of additional protection, or was it to say more broadly these things apply? I don't know when it was originally created, if anyone knows what the intent was at this point. Because that did stick out to me. I just assumed there was a reason it was only the one watershed.
It was probably just inadvertently left out, I guess.
A lot of these are boilerplate things too that they go on over the years and...
So that would be my assumption. I don't think it was left out intentionally.
No, nothing's left out that way. Okay, Chris, anything else?
I'll support that motion.
Does all that sound good to you, Carol? You got all that to change on it? Okay. Okay, everyone else good? All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move on to the second reading of the building code. We're going to adopt into the 2015 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code. And again, I don't believe much in this has changed from our first reading.
I'll move the adoption of ordinance 16-22.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Move on to new business. Chickerell Lyon Plan Development, AP 22-30, conceptual review. Brian?
Thank you, John. Before you this evening is the conceptual review for the Chickerell parcel, which is a project on the east side of Pontiac Trail, just northeast of Saddle Creek, in the western portion of the township. And I will bring up the plan here. The project itself is on a parcel, a collection of parcels that total almost 70 acres. There are 60 single-family detached condominium ranches that are proposed as part of this project. And here we are in the first stage of 3, conceptual, preliminary, and final. The Planning Commission reviewed this project in 2 separate meetings, the second of which was October 24th. And in general, they liked the product, liked the amenities that were proposed in terms of trails and pathways, but they felt that the parallel plan density was not met for the project, so that's where they left it there. If you recall, conceptual review, there are no formal approvals or denials. It is specifically to provide as much feedback as you can to try to direct an applicant. So that's where we are asking, that is what we are asking of you this evening, still at conceptual review. So the project itself meets the township's application requirements for consideration as a planned development. Specifically, I want to note that the compatibility with the master plan is one item that we'll continue to discuss throughout this review, and I suspect with your comments as well. This area is designated as single-family residential A in the township's master plan, which attempts to have projects meet a 1.25 unit per acre density. And I note in our review that if all of the area of the project site could be developed, it would result in 85 lots as it's proposed, or as it sits today. However, a significant portion of this property is regulated wetland or low wet areas, and so per our parallel plan, or per the parallel plan that was submitted by the developer, 30 lots could fit under traditional zoning. So that's the number that we're looking for 1 acre parcels. At our 1.25 density, the project could get up to 38 lots. So we take a bit of exception to the 60 units that are proposed on the plan. But ultimately, the Planning Commission and the Township Board do have a little bit of discretion for density bonuses if you find a lot of community benefits. But ultimately, because of the amount of wetlands on this property, the overall density should really be in the vicinity of 0.44 units an acre. And as it's proposed, we should be looking for a total density of 0.55 units an acre based on that 1.25 density. The project does save a very significant amount of open space. You can tell based on this rendering that has been provided, quite a bit of the property and much more than the 20% required has been saved. 38.88 acres of upland open space will be saved if this plan comes to fruition. All of the uses that are proposed are single-family residential, which is in line with our master plan. There are no non-residential components that are proposed. All of the required pathways are proposed along Pontiac Trail. This is a bit more meandering than normal. However, we kind of prefer that in this instance. It provides a lot of seating opportunities and additional screening, so that we view as a benefit, and the Planning Commission appreciated that as well. There is a pathway that is proposed throughout the development that gets in and around some of the wetlands and back through the open spaces. So that was a benefit as well. All the setbacks that are required of the ordinance can be met. We did have one question about the lots, or the viability of lots here at the northern cul-de-sac that is proposed. There's one lot, I believe it's lot 18 at the very end, that doesn't have true access onto the cul-de-sac, so I think ultimately that lot would not be viable, but the others make sense and meet our ordinance. So all in all, our review really only takes exception with the density, which is pretty significant when we look at what is proposed or what is permitted by the parallel plan. And the Planning Commission felt the same in their review. So With that, I can take any questions specifically about the project. Otherwise, the applicants are here and have a presentation available as well.
Okay, before we bring the applicants up, any questions for Brian? Okay, come on up.
Jim, can I just run it from here? Are you
Yeah, that'd
okay
be
with
great.
that?
That would be welcome, thank you.
All right.
Jim Clark, Robertson Homes, 6905 Telegraph Road, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, 48301, actually. Brian's done a great job queuing up the project and highlighting the key questions. I wanted to go back through a little bit of the history briefly and then tell you some of the reasons why we're hopeful that we can discuss the density and the amenities we're proposing for this site and the uses and get your reaction to it tonight. So as Brian said, we've been in front of the Planning Commission twice. We did meet with staff originally at an initial meeting where we had shown a plan, if we can go to the first plan, with 81 units, which was on the 66 acres we had at the time, it was 1.22 units per acre. We were directed to go back and get a parallel plan, which we came back to and had for our first Planning Commission meeting. At that time, we had also acquired or put together a purchase agreement for a out parcel, which you can see in the rectangular place. It's Mr. Poole's property. That property his house sits within the ultimate setback of Pontiac Trail. If it remains, that would require, if that ultimate right-of-way and the setback is put in place, his house would not meet those requirements of the 75-foot setback from the right-of-way. So we thought in terms of the overall property and the parcel and bringing it all together and what our viewscape, if you will, is on Pontiac Trail, that we would look to acquire that, and we did. So the density, or not the density, but the acreage, if you'll go to the next one, was increased to 68.
Sorry.
The next, that was quick.
Sorry.
How did you like it? Was that good? So we came back to the Planning Commission with a parallel plan and with the acquisition of that property, and had proposed 70 units, which was, we reduced by 11 units, or an overall acreage calculation of 1.02 units per acre. There was some confusion on the parallel plan and the viability of the plan, so we came back again for our second meeting on October 24th. Again, we had received direction, not specific numbers, but they felt it was too dense, so we reduced the unit count again down to 60 units, which is 0.88 units per acre, and a zoning classification which can allow as much as 1.25 units per acre. So we're here tonight to get your feedback on the plan, the amenities, and obviously the overall density that is, in our opinion, what allows us to do all the amenities that hopefully make this a truly special project. So if we can go to the next slide, Brian. Okay, I've talked ahead of myself. Keep going. So this was the revised parallel plan. The property is located within the Davis Creek watershed, which is characterized as a hidden treasure by the Huron River Watershed Council. And if we go to the next slide, it is also identified as a priority 2 area for preservation in your master plan. So it is a unique site in terms of the Huron River watershed, and was recognized in your master plan as something that should be preserved. So that's one of our challenges, if you will, or one of our opportunities in our planning exercise. Part of the reason for these designations are the site has 14.96 acres of wetland, so it's a big piece of property, but there are a lot of wetlands. And then there's 18 acres of floodplain also with the creek that runs through the site. So to address those critical goals of preservation, if we can go to the next slide here, Robertson Brothers is proposing to, now you can take the wetlands out, and there's a calculation you can leave the wetlands in. So if we leave the wetlands in, 53.86 acres of the overall site, so almost 54 acres of the site will not be touched. If we remove the 14 acres of wetlands, which is what your ordinance says, and we use the acreage, the overall acreage, 57% of the site will remain in open space. So an important consideration, and one that we think is lends some justification to the use of a PUD. It's a truly unique site with a lot of very beautiful natural features, and that was our design challenge. So if we can go to the next slide. Well, actually, this is the next slide. So secondarily, it has 1,320 lineal feet of Pontiac Trail since we acquired the house. In reading your ordinances and some of the criteria for design excellence, it speaks a lot about the rural viewscapes and improving the corridors, Pontiac Trail being one of them. So we'll go to the next slide. Robertson Brothers worked very hard with getting, I did talk to you about the 75 feet with the existing house. So we acquired that house, which gave us that 1,300 square feet or lineal feet to work with. And what we have decided to do, as Brian pointed out, is a meandering path open to the public with a number of amenities, which we'd love to get your feedback on. So we have a seating area located in the middle. We have a connection point at the top that goes around our retention pond, where we would have a 0.7 mile long trail that would be open to the public, and it would be our intent to dedicate that public space to the township. Another thing that is in your design standards for excellence, so we would have an open nature trail that would be available coming off of Pontiac Trail, would loop around. I think if you go to the next slide, that doesn't show it either. This shows some of the imagery that we would propose, some dry stack stone walls, a little, not a guardhouse, but a little entrance structure along Pontiac Trail, a nice stone sign. And then if we go to the next image, I'm showing the fence details and the landscaping details in that little center area for people who are walking down Pontiac Trail to stop, pause, and have a place to sit off the road. So your ordinance requires a 75-foot setback. At our worst, we are over 80 feet setback from the road. We're 125 feet from the road. We're 80 feet to the closest point, and that only occurs in 4 areas where those 4 houses side to Pontiac Trail. If you look at the balance of that 1,320 feet, your viewscapes are across a retention pond. They're through the center courtyard section, which is heavily landscaped, and they're wide open to the back of the property. So what we tried to do is, we weren't able to meet your 200-foot setback for all of the homes as currently laid out, but we tried to preserve that rural viewscape, if you will, and improve it with amenities as a justification for a PUD and hopefully a density bonus to allow us to do that. So if you'll go to the next slide, Brian. This shows the proposed trail through the nature trail coming off of and around our retention pond, crossing over at one point on our road, and then really going back into the 50 acres of open space behind. There's no magic to that layout, and there's no magic to that length necessarily. It's a proposal. We think I have a lot of photographs and images of that area, and it is a beautiful natural area back there. There is an oil well, which we are leaving heavily screened back there. That would remain with the current owner, and at the termination of the lease would fold into the overall property once it is closed out with the state of Michigan. So that's all per DEQ standards and nothing we have anything to do with. So those are all standards that they would have to adhere to. If we can go to the next slide, Brian. So on the issue of, what is design excellence, your plan does provide for density, or the potential for density bonuses beyond, we're not looking for a density bonus beyond what the ordinance says, but a density bonus beyond the 30 units that the parallel plan shows. And it gives some things that need to be, some conditions that need to be met. So the first provision is provision of usable and contiguous open space with at least 40% of the site using the concepts of clustering. So we did cluster, and we have preserved a lot of open space to try and address that issue. The provision of multi-use trails beyond what would be typically included in a development, and making connections to the township trail system. The only connection we're making with the trail system would be our Pontiac Trail sidewalk, which would give access to a nature trail to everyone walking up and down Pontiac Trail, from people across Pontiac Trail and people north and south of Pontiac Trail. So under 7.3, we were attempting to make that that design excellence connection with the use of the trail. Donation of land for parks or open space to retain the land for the common good and perpetuity. It would be our intent and our desire to donate that to the city if the city wants it, the township wants it. If not, our association could maintain the trail, but it could be done with a deed restriction on its eventual use. The reclamation and reuse of land where previous uses of the land caused severe development difficulties or blight. I don't believe that exists, with the exception of there is a well there. We're providing access for the once a month truck that would come in and leave, but we're screening it, and we're having the residents on front and leaving it as part of the nature space, although we're bringing the trail away from it so there would be no perception of it. There are not smells. They pump into a tank and it's emptied once a month. So it's a very clean, and it's actually not a very active operation. With the images I showed you along Pontiac Trail, we were attempting to show a preservation of the rural view sheds along main roads. I'd like some feedback from you. We're very happy with what we've done, but you may hate it. So the attempt is to try and have a new standard for Pontiac Trail, or an increased standard of landscaping, amenities, and the meandering paths in connection to that nature trail. And then installation of the streetscape on arterial roads, which we just spoke about. So you can go to the next slide. I want to change up for a minute and talk about the product type that we're proposing. So we looked at some of the SEMCOG data. Surprising. Lyon Township is aging like the whole rest of southeast Michigan. So if you look at the data and you believe the data from SEMCOG, it says you are going to, from 2010 to 2020, you're going to have a 67% growth in your senior population, or 4,102 units, which would basically equate to the necessity, if you wanted to accommodate that aging in place, of about 100 units a year of that product type. And just by way of example, and I don't know if I have the right paper here, we pulled everything that's in your approval process currently off of your website. And the majority of the projects you have in the approval process are single-family homes. And that's logical, because you can build bigger single-family homes than you can ranches, and they're probably more economically viable. So in other communities at other times, this type of product is incentivized with density to some degree, so they can get smaller ranch-style homes for the people who want to sell their 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath colonials and stay in the community that they're in. So it's provided for you in your ordinance. We're obviously asking for it today and hoping that the design features we've added here and the uniqueness of the product would justify it. But certainly, if you look at the data from SEMCOG, there is a real need there statistically. And we think if you don't encourage this, you'll get beautiful development, and you'll turn around in 10 years and you'll have a lot of single-family homes and not a lot of ranch-style condominiums for everyone who bought them. So we've seen it. I'm old enough to have seen it, unfortunately. At 66 years old, I've seen it in a lot of communities. So Brian may be able to give you more feedback on how you encourage ranch-style development. So the second thing we did, the next slide, indicates the sort of the difference between ranch homes and single-family homes. And if we were to build this site out as per your standard ordinance and not request a PUD, and just what's it zoned for, what do we do, and how much traffic would that generate with single-family homes? The traffic that it would generate just as zoned and in the ordinance would be greater than the 60 units of age-targeted housing that we're proposing according to the traffic experts, not according to Jim Clark. So we did provide a traffic report that you will have to look at and substantiate that Fleece and Vanderblink are not criminals and liars. So we've used them a lot. They're very well-respected traffic engineers, but the impact on your municipal services is not greater with this type of product type. So, what we have found, although these are not age-restricted, they're age-targeted, and if you build ranches, in doing this for 30 years, they sell to people at 55 and older, and generally 65 and older, who are selling that 4-bedroom colonial. So, additionally, Impact on services, it's generally a lock, load, and leave. It's a second home for a lot of these people. They are away in the winter, and there is not as much draw on your services. There's certainly not a draw on your schools, and there isn't a draw on the traffic. It's a ranch-style house, so it's not a big two-bedroom colonial stacked one big floor on the other. We did ask for a accommodation on a story and a half. I'm ambivalent on that. It's really just a ranch-style home that we are looking for approval on. Let me see if I've missed anything. So, Brian, if you'll keep going, I've got some slides of the homes. So these are the images of the homes we would propose to build. There's 2 or 3 more elevations. They're all of this character. They're all brick and stone, hardy plank siding. They're 1,800 square feet, 2-bedroom and a den, full basement. In one case, in some of the communities where we have built these, we've put another bedroom and bathroom underneath the peak of the roof, so it doesn't, and the windows don't, that dormer you're seeing is not functional. The windows go out the side, not out the front. If you can go to the next slide. So this is just a artist rendering of a streetscape. I can actually send you photos of an actual built streetscape if that's of interest. So our request, and Brian had looked at your ordinance, and we have a PUD plan, or we have a parallel plan that says 30 units, and then he took 1.25, I believe, and multiplied that and said, so you should get 0.55 units. We're hopeful that through some cooperation with you and some ideas from you and maybe some acceptance of what we're proposing, that we could look at something between 30 or 38 units and what we're proposing. We'd like the 60. To our west is RM2 zoning, right across the street. This property touches 0.5, R.05 density to the east. It has B2 to the north. And our request is to do less than the 1.25 per acre. And the reason for the request is all the unique elements that I talked to you about in terms of the excessive amount of wetlands, the floodplain, and the desire to preserve. If you're removing the wetlands, I guess it's only 57%. If you put the wetlands in, it's almost 80% of the site in open space in exchange for doing an exceptional front door, if you will, on Pontiac Trail, all the preservation, and what we hope you will find is a very attractive housing type that is, we know, in demand from statistical numbers. So with that, I will cut it off and ask for questions. I'm sorry, here with me tonight is Tim Lochran, our Land Acquisition Director, and Darren Newbecker, our COO. What did I miss? I stumbled a lot, but what did I miss?
All right, Mr.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm going to open it up for questions. Anyone would like to start? Go ahead and give them some ideas on your thoughts.
Thank you.
Anyone want to start? Go ahead. Want to start?
Sure. A couple questions. So you mentioned the ranch-style homes and everything, which is fine. I don't deny any type of market analysis. You guys know what you're doing in terms of that. But so is this targeted, or is it required for 55 and older?
We've never done them as required. We would certainly look at that if that's something that's desirable. Because you don't have use of your backyard and you can't put in a pool or plastic swing sets and playgrounds and soccer fields, nobody with kids comes to these homes unless they're high school and off to college. Now that's the past 30 years of, and I can show you 30 years of this type of housing, but we would restrict it if that was the township's desire, but we don't. And we only would build ranches. So we wouldn't come back and say we're building single family. It'd be part of the PUD.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have strong feelings either way. I was just want a clarification on that.
They want it. The people who buy in here, they want to know they've got neighbors that are, in the same boat, if you will. They're all coming in at the same time, and they're all getting new houses. It's the last house before the home generally, and it's, they want to know it's maintained and taken care of. So that's very important to us and probably them.
Yeah, we currently have at least 2 communities that are 55 and older.
Yes.
Though I don't know how well it's kept track of once the initial sales go. The oil wells, you mentioned that the singular oil well that you mentioned, that is outside your scope, so to speak. I guess when I look back at Saddle Creek, which is across the street from this, they had 2 oil wells out there that had to be abandoned. So this isn't gonna, that oil well will remain? Do you have a timeline on that lease, or is that?
I wish I could get you one. We will own the property and they will get the royalties. So that's the current thinking. So I don't, if you can tell me what the policy is on oil and gas today, I guess I'd give you a better answer. It's still producing a minor amount of oil and gas, and they're, like I say, it's sometimes once a month, sometimes less than that. So there are royalties of a modest level that the family would keep.
Okay. And I guess if this were to move forward, would there be disclosures and stuff of, hey, yes, you're moving in here, but
yes,
there's an oil
absolutely.
well back? 'Cause, I don't know if I've smelled that one in particular, but there are a couple others in the township that have given off an odor, but that one's set so far back that
yes, and we haven't
not even be noticeable. You talked about potential amenities as part of the project, and I guess with the trail that's being produced across the frontage, we do have we do have a segmented trail up at Cook Automotive north of there. It's about 700 feet north. If that is a potential connection, depending on as a added benefit to this project, that would be an idea for you. The other potential is there is a pathway on the opposite side of the road for Saddle Creek, and we had I know I asked when Saddle Creek came by, is potentially doing a crossing there with proper signage from the road commission to try and get people from one side of Pontiac Trail to another. So that's another potential possibility. Otherwise, I see what you're proposing internally as basically no one can really get to it other than the people living there. Anybody else that's coming to have the internal pathway to the nature area, they would actually have to drive and park somewhere in there versus, just bike or walk in there. So those are both good ideas. It's not our intent because it's coming off a public walkway on Pontiac Trail, but there aren't connections all the way up and down. So if we could make a connection to the 700 feet north or across, the intent would be to have it for general public's use. And then I guess probably the main stickler is still the density. I agree with Brian's 38 units, and I have probably been very stringent on not giving much voting for a project of any type of real density bonus without some significant community benefits. So, my whole stance on it will be get down as close as you can get to 38, and maybe if you have some of these additional community benefits, I'd consider it. But right now.
So help me with those, because not that it matters. We went from 80 to 70 and 70 to 60, and the Planning Commission said, we love what you're doing, but we think it's too much, but you need to talk to council about the benefits and the numbers. So I'm here to listen. We want to build it as detached ranch-style condominiums and want to see if we can make it work with what you see are significant. I don't know what your significant features are. We thought this was a proposal with significant features, with trails and trailheads and benches and gazebos, and but if that isn't it, then that's not. I don't have the vision for your township, so I need help on what would make this meet those criteria that I read. It needs some density help, and 38 doesn't get the amenities built the way we're proposing them, which isn't a threat. It's just that's the after 70 years, you know what it takes to do projects. So we're looking for help on what your ideas are.
What are the side yard setbacks proposed? I don't know if I've seen.
Tim, are those 10s or 15s? 15 or 20. I mean, we can work with you on that. I mean, in a similar project, there are as little as 10 feet and as much as 15.
Well, I was just asking here.
Yes.
You're not set that yet. You're still figuring that out.
No, we've not done any engineering.
I'm sorry, Chris. I didn't mean to step on you. I just had that question.
No,
Go ahead.
I actually had that question too. So, because I wasn't sure.
Because the houses are basically the same plan, what we're doing is one side, I don't want to say doesn't have windows, it just have windows that are not lining up with the opposite side of the house, and so they fit together very nicely, and you're not looking into somebody else's window, even with the proximity. Because, yes?
It's 16.5 minimum.
16.5 minimum.
So you have a minimum of 16 and a
That
half.
was the older plan. I think we actually, that was a comment we had planning commission, so I think we went to 12.
Is that actual side yard setback or separation?
Separation.
And there won't be lots because these will be condos, so there really won't be a setback from a lot line. They're just separations of...
Yes, it'll be building-to-building separation.
You knew what I meant.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
No, I'm all set.
Are you done? Okay. I just want to say, I want to say I really do like the house, and I do think I think it would be great in the township to have small ranches like that. I'm a little concerned, it's a little bit tight. There's a lot of homes in there. You are doing some pretty nice amenities, I'll tell you that. I think you are doing some nice sidewalks through the project, and I like all that. I think you're buffering pretty good around the whole project. Now, I think I don't really know what else you could do to set this kind of density into that kind of a situation. It would be pretty hard to do a lot of other configurations, is what I'm saying. But that being said, there's a lot of homes in a small area, and I think that's going to be the hurdle that you're probably going to have to try to get over. And I don't know if that's 38, as you say, to 60, or anywhere in between. I just think, if you came up with some side yard separations and give some space in there, and I don't know if that means moving the houses a little bit here and there. They just seem a little bit tight in the area you have them in.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
They are packed together. One, because we've done a lot and we know it doesn't affect the homeowners there. They'd rather have the open space because they're in a condominium, they're done with yards. So we do bring them close from a safety standpoint, and my neighbor's gone, I'm watching over their house. Doesn't mean it works for you here. If we were to do something and we eliminated units on Pontiac Trail to try and make it so nobody sees it unless they're going in there and live there, I mean, would that be a consideration? I mean, we can certainly spread them out, but the whole point was let's preserve as much space as we can and not spread them out. Now, obviously, if we have 4 units, we can spread them out a lot. So I understand what you're saying.
I think the benefit of this product is that, being that it is what it is and it's one story, the scale of it lines up better for a 20-foot separation than you would, you go into like Wixom and Novi and you see some of those houses that all look identical.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ugliest things I've ever seen, and I could probably about spread my arms out and touch the two of them. And I mean, I guess people live where they want to live, and that's fine, but I think it looks terrible. I don't think the massing is such in this case where it will look bad, and I think it's, like it's been said, it's a very attractive, high-quality product. I think the demographic information, the traffic information that you shared, I completely agree with. I mean, it's a type of product that's going to be empty nester and quieter, not a lot of traffic at peak times. I guess the benefit of it's almost a cluster. So
Yes.
as you scale back, I would think that my thought would be is that I agree the density is a little high, and I don't know what the property is going for, but we've seen lots of projects come in.
Too much.
Right. Well, the seller has a number in mind,
Yes.
but the seller is not considering what the master plan or the community's
Correct.
Plan long term for the property is, and it may not align with what they'd like to get. And I can understand that. I mean, who wouldn't want to get as much as they can get for their property? That's certainly their right to try. But I would think that if you're going to lose some lots, I mean, certainly maybe those first 4 that you talked about, only being 80-ish feet from the road, might be a good start for the first 4. But otherwise, I'd probably try to shrink your infrastructure, because that's just going to help with your bottom line as you try to make this more palatable from an economic standpoint. I know you have a lot of open space, you have a lot of wetland, you have the oil well that nobody's going to want to live by. So there's some kind of competing interests a bit. But, I mean, I don't have an issue with 20 feet between this type of unit necessarily, but I would think that if you're going to, you're not going to spread the units out as much as you're going to eliminate, dead-end roads, cul-de-sac roads, single-loaded roads like I see in the south, I'm going to say east corner. Like those are an expensive, 4 houses, 5 houses to build on a single-loaded road coming down to, I guess, the bottom right corner.
Yep.
Those are the things that I would think you would want to, and listen, you've built a lot more houses than I have, so I know you know what you're doing, but, if I'm giving my feedback, I agree with everything that's been said here. I agree with the Planning Commission, and I think this is a product type that we need more of. I mean, there are a handful of others going on in the township or moving in the direction of, going ahead in the township, but, again, the world is aging, so
Yes.
I get it. We want a product that's available so folks who, grew up in this community can have a place, that works for them in this community for as long as they want to be here. So,
Yes.
I think that the look of it is nice. I think, the comment regarding trying to connect to, pathways somewhere is a good idea. There's a neighborhood in the city not too far south that has sidewalks. That's right across from the more southerly entrance to Saddle Creek. So there could be a connection there, but you'd be, actually that vacant land that's just
They're already
north.
doing one.
Do what?
I think they're already doing one there.
They're doing a sidewalk there? Or a project?
This piece, right?
No, I meant on the other side.
Oh.
On the east side,
East
north
side.
of
Coach
Coach House Lane, between Coach House Lane and Trevor Drive.
When you have sidewalks on the other side, so I mean, the idea of making a crossover makes sense
Well,
too.
it sounds great, but the county also doesn't love those, and they're not safe.
That wouldn't be
they're
safe.
better than nothing, but they're definitely not ideal.
Right.
Well, that's a busy road, and it's very congested
is.
most of the
Yes.
time. And to stop
Absolutely.
them for people walking across,
Yeah,
Right.
I'm not sure you could get through that.
yeah.
Well, I would share some of these review letters
Good.
with the seller too.
Yeah,
I
good.
want to see what the
Yes.
prospective density is.
I mean, if we can go back to the site plan, we carefully, with the site plan, all of the backyards look out, for the most part, over open space. So, I mean, it looks dense here. As you live in that house, your back opens up to open space. So you have the view of hundreds of feet from almost all of those houses. Yes, you're close to your neighbor as you pull in, but, you're protected side to side, and your back door is expansive in almost every one of those cases. There are a few houses that back up to,
What is your price point that you're thinking about to sell these homes at 1,800 square feet on small lots? I mean, I'm just asking.
I don't know what's going to happen. I hate predicting what happens, because then lumber goes up and I'm not at the number, or lumber goes down, I'm able to be at a different number, or the trade base is up, or that we have a recession and interest rates have a huge impact. I know in Troy right now, we're in the 500s. And some people are optioning them up into the 600s. I know in Rochester, by the time we were done, there were some people who put over $250,000 or $300,000 into a $500,000 house, which kind of was crazy to me. But they were residents of Rochester who wanted to stay in Rochester and didn't want their big house. And we have a design center in our office building on Telegraph, and the people we're trying to target are people who want to be in your community, and they want their churches, their friends, their community, and they really want to dress it up. So we try and give them, I don't want to say give them the minimum, we try and give them a very nice exterior and a lot of options on the inside.
Yeah, $500 or $600 grand's a lot for an 1,800 square foot home.
It's a lot. It's a lot
None
of money.
these houses are going to go for less than $450,000 or $475,000.
They won't be able to with the current
I'm
cost.
talking 5 and 6.
No, I'm
That's
just
a
saying,
lot.
like when he was trying to give a ballpark. I mean, this is not going to be.
It's very inefficient. You pour the basement, and you could put 2 floors on it. So you could easily double the size of the footage. We're not. We're just doing a ranch.
Well, I think it's a nice product. I mean, I think it would sell. The number's a little tall for 1,800 square feet, but that's what it is.
Yeah, they sell. They do sell.
I should know what Pulte was selling for, but I imagine it's in that 4+ range.
The ones on Kent Lake Road, the sign says from the 4s.
Which means they're 5 and
on the 4s, but
Yeah, those developers, you're not going to get one for a 4.
And the other
If that's
thing,
the
I mean,
sign.
whatever
Yes.
the base is, it's at least 15% in
Yes.
options, right, at least.
Yes,
in
exactly.
Lyon Township, it doesn't matter. People are buying these homes. I mean, it's incredible.
Yes.
They're buying these houses. I mean, they want to be here.
They must watch our meetings.
You know, our contention is, this doesn't set a precedent. I know you are always concerned about precedents. The uniqueness of this site is it is such a one-off with this much acreage, with this many challenges, that, you know, we don't believe at 0.88 units per acre, it bastardizes your master plan, because there's RM1 on one side and there's 0.5 on the other side. There's commercial to the north, and we're still substantially under the 1.25. If we can give you enough amenities and enough design elements, we need some density to pay for that above the 38. We need close to the
Okay, well,
60.
we should move this along. Sean, are you done?
I think so.
Okay. You want-
Yeah,
Go
Jim,
ahead.
I've seen the plan multiple times. I love it, and I've mentioned that to you before. I think I've looked at the design of the houses, the exterior and the interior, and for somebody aging like myself, this would be an absolutely beautiful place to live, because you're right, as you get older, you don't want all the yard work and the lawn, so I agree with them being that close, and I get what Sean said about the clustering. You need that for this kind of product. You're not truly talking about a true single-family home, because that wouldn't be what I want, and I'm just speaking for myself, but I know I'm aging, and I would need that kind of, or look forward to that kind of home. And I agree the density is probably a little high. You're going to have to figure that out. But the project itself, I really like it, and I like the design, and I like the amenities, but I think the density is still the stopping, and I've mentioned that to you myself, but I like the project, and I've always wondered what the Chickarrow property was going to do in my aging years here, but
You stop saying that.
That's true.
We're all aging.
Yeah, well, a little faster, I'm a little faster, but anyways, all these things I've said to you before, and I said it at the Planning Commission, and I'm saying it here, so I do really like the project.
Thank you.
Just you got to figure out some of the density.
How do we
have
do
other
that?
clusters that we okayed in the township.
I like the clustering.
This would be the first.
And you got to provide some product for people our age too, and that doesn't seem
Here you
like
go
we
again
have.
on the age.
Well, we don't have enough of it. There's not enough choices. I mean, we can buy a house anywhere in the township because they're all over. But the kind of house that I think would be for, an older population, we just don't have enough of it.
We'll increase the density then to provide more opportunities.
I did not say that.
No, I know you did.
That I did not
I'm
say.
sorry.
But anyways, those are my comments.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and keep moving. Michelle?
Well, I kind of agree with everything that's been said so far, but I did hear basement. How high is the water table there if you've got all that issue in the back? And how much problems are you going to have with basements?
Anywhere from 6 feet to, 13 to 20 feet, and, we'll have to look at that in cases. I mean, we may have to do slabs, or we'll do a warm and dry system on the basement, and then, a water backup pump on the sump. So we're used to doing that. Hopefully, we don't have to dewater. It's not pervasive across the site like some areas in Lyon Township, and we do have soil borings, so we can share those with you.
We'll require it if the project moves forward that they provide the basement elevation and the groundwater for every unit. And if they're below, the basements are below the groundwater table on a permanent basis, they have to modify their plan or exclude basements.
Okay, good to hear.
When you say modify plan, is that like including backup sump type systems, or is it you can't have a basement below the water
What I mean is
table?
they would raise the finished floor elevation and change the grading plan if they're going to have a basement, so. I mean, it's just.
You get your you get your soils reports, and sometimes it's perched water, and sometimes it's natural water, and it's sometimes, it's difficult to tell until you're done putting in your utilities. It oftentimes will drop the water table. In Lyon Township, high water tables are a beware. So it's not unique to us in building, and it's certainly not unique to Lyon Township.
You need basements, though.
Yes.
We acquire a lot of things in our
Yes.
lifetime.
At your age, it should be gone.
I don't like letting go of it, that's the problem.
know.
So, need a basement, that's for sure.
So you don't need the stairs.
Anything else, Michelle?
No, that was my big concern,
Robert?
was the basements and everything.
So I love the idea of the overall preservation and such. You talked a lot about either public access or public dedication, so I guess that's something that we would have to hammer out is, in that case, who's going to be responsible for what in terms of maintenance over the long term? Is that going to be borne by whatever association, or if it's on us, then we have to think about how we're going to finance that long term. I agree. Again, it's great. I mean, I would love to, ride my bike there and go walk through these things, but we do have that issue of right now there's no safe way for anyone to get to that site with our current sidewalk build out. So I would, again, encourage you to look at connecting north and or south. South, you'd have to, it might be a little complicated, and you'd have to coordinate with the city as well, because we'd want to go all the way to that sidewalk and carriage trace, which the benefit of that route, I think, is you get a immediate connectivity to a wider area, because through carriage trace you can get to the main line of the Huron Valley Trail.
And you get all the way down to 11 Mile, right? Going back through carriage trace?
Yep.
Yeah,
correct. So that gets the most access to the most people, but however you want to do that. I mean, obviously I would take a pathway north as well, but which, on that note, I guess, not having like detailed plans, it looks like you're running path along Pontiac Trail, crossing Davis Creek.
Yes.
I'm not sure about how wide the space is there. You might be looking at,
if you go back a
culvert
couple
work.
of, Brian, there's a depiction of what we were proposing to do on Davis Creek. Those are pictures from the site. That's not
Not
photoshopped
stock
from
photos.
somewhere else.
Okay.
That's what the walking trails would be like.
Sorry, I was in the wrong.
That's all right.
Or was
It's
that
very
where you-
fortuitous.
Was that where you wanted
are you
to be?
talking
with the
about,
slide?
are you talking about the safety path?
Yes, the safety
sketch?
path shows how it crosses Davis Creek, if that's of interest. Otherwise, it's in the.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm just wondering, I guess, if you've thought about in your costing of this, I don't know if you can fit that across the existing culvert.
We would bring it out to the road as it crosses over out on Pontiac Trail, and then bring it back away from Pontiac Trail. That's
Okay.
the prior two slides. It shows it coming back out to the existing culvert, so we're not putting a new culvert in
Right.
and going through that whole process.
We did look at the culvert, but.
Okay, I mean, if you've looked, then,
Yes.
whatever. Just, I don't want to get to the end of, like, we've finally determined, we can do this much benefit for this much density, and then you go, oh, no.
Yeah.
Just to add a comment, if you don't mind, that would be something the road commission would review during permitting, and if they were not able to achieve that permit, the applicant would have to come up with another way to cross, and it could just be like a small prefab bridge
Right.
instead of a culvert, but that would be part of their requirement to extend to the north property.
Okay, but we
line,
would
so-
still require a crossing either
I would
way?
think so.
Okay, that would be part of
Yes.
what I would ultimately be concerned with, is just losing that if it doesn't work in your math. Let's see, what else did I have here? Yeah, I guess the density, I don't think it is a negative on the density in terms of the feel. Like, as I'm trying to envision you're sitting there, it probably would feel okay. It's just, how do we justify the leap from 38 to whatever we end up at? And that's where the benefits come in. But I feel like I'm forgetting something. Very tiny thing, but as I was looking at your little amenity sketches, I thought that was kind of neat that you have a little, like, charging station in your seating
Yes.
area, things like that. Just, I like, just to say, I like the direction you're going with what you're trying to provide. It's just,
Thank
how
you.
do we get to a balance in the numbers, so.
So I will mirror everybody's comment regarding density, and how you get there, I don't know. But I think that your current plan is probably not something that I could fully support with that number that you have. I just wanted to ask a couple questions, though. Your pathway material in that natural walking area, it seems like it's just natural, so it's not wood chip, it's just going to be mowed?
Would be mowed or weed whipped or whacked down
Okay.
2 or 3 times a year to keep it natural.
Okay.
The wood chips get trampled in
They're
after 1
horrible.
year, and then
Yeah,
just...
and that would be a horrible idea. So
Yes, okay.
we would never want that.
Okay.
And then I think that Robert brought up a good point regarding the, if it is dedicated to the township, then whose responsibility is it for maintaining those paths, especially in the long term? But then also a question would be for Carol regarding, the liability if somebody's injured on these paths and that type of thing. So I'm sure that she would have input regarding that. Also, I would be, as nice as the observation and interpretive area, those little wooden observation decks, just looking at who would be responsible for maintaining those and making sure that they don't fall into disrepair. So those would be some questions I'm sure would be handled later on down the line. And then I appreciate the product itself, and I do understand the price point that you're looking at. And let's see. I do think that without having some of the true connectivity that many of us have already talked about, that those amenities are really for the residents of that product or of that location, and not really community-wide benefit. So I feel like it has the potential to be a community benefit where you do have, those walking paths and the nature trails. It would be problematic. I certainly don't think that anybody in the community would be too excited to have a bunch of people driving there, parking on their streets, and then go walking in their what they may perceive as their walking trails as opposed to township walking trails. So I think that one of the ways to avoid that would be to have that wider connectivity to the north and to the south. So trying to achieve that would probably be a priority for me. And this is just a question. It's not a criticism at all, but throughout your presentation, you've often said single family versus ranches. So are ranches, is that the new word for condo?
No, I mean, you can do single-family ranches, and we offer ranches in single-family communities. That's just my lexicon and my,
Okay, I was just curious.
Misappropriation of words.
That's fine. I thought, well, I live...
It's age targeted is, the community's age targeted because we're only building ranches.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
The issue of whether we dedicate or not is whether the township wants it dedicated. We would put a conservation easement on it and maintain it and keep it with our association, but never to be used as anything but township conservation area, if that's a easier concept to wrap around. The ordinance talks about gifting, which we're happy to do, but then it has, as you pointed out, all sorts of problems. It's a lot simpler if we don't gift it, but I want the benefit of saying I would have given it, and then leave it with my association so they can take care of it. Because then you don't have the liability issues, and they get that with their original deed and their disclosure statement, and they know what it is, and it's not a question. It's a fact of purchasing in there. So we can go either way. One's a little easier long-term, possibly.
I would defer to what Carol would recommend for us. And I guess my question then it would be, where would it say within their documents that this is something open to residents township-wide? Would that be something that would be included?
Everywhere. So
Okay.
you have a disclosure statement, which is kind of Cliff's notes of the 45 pages of master deed, and that would call that out, and then it would be in the master deed that says this is not yours, and then it would be on the Exhibit D documents where it's a pictorial representation of what you own and what you don't own. So there'd be 3 spots you'd have to not read to not understand.
Okay.
You could even require signage.
I was going to say, you've got little examples of some
Yes.
signage. So if we would have something on that, because I know the subdivision I grew up in, there was a thing that basically said, this trail is for use of the residents and their guests. So something explicitly stating this is open to.
Yes.
Okay.
I think those are my only questions.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I don't know if you know where to go from here.
Well, less units.
You had a lot of things thrown at you, and I think the bottom line of everything was to try to lighten the homes up or to give more benefit, which we really haven't told you what that benefit could be, other than maybe some connections of pathways. So I think he needs a little more direction, or do you feel like you know the direction?
Well, I think I've got to look at connectivity, so we'll definitely look at that. I don't have a sense of, at .88 units per acre in a 1.25 zoning classification with RM across the street and 2 units per acre to the east and a truly unique site, I don't have a sense of where the township's head's at. I know what Brian has said, and I understand his rationale, but we would rather do more amenities and stuff and get a few more units to help pay for it. If we just do the 38 units, and this isn't threats, we can't do what it is we're presenting. We were trying to show you a beautiful picture of what we'd like to do and take the shirt sleeves out of your vest, which is density, because it's under the master plan density. So I don't have a sense of if I took 2 units off, would you like it? If I took 22 units off, would you like it? Or if I took 42 units, I don't. And the Planning Commission said they loved it too, but they didn't think the council would go for that density, but they didn't know what density they would go. Some said they were fine with the density. Well, one person did. So.
Well, that's why I've said there's a little confusion before you leave here, because I kind of get that.
Yes.
That you're really not sure what to even aim for.
Yes, I don't have that sense.
And I guess it would be fair on our part to let them know what we would. I mean, you can't just leave here, to come back with a plan that we would turn down.
Can I ask
we just need to give it
a question here?
Yeah, sure.
I guess, can you talk a little bit, Brian, about how we determine these things? So, if we're talking about, the net acreage versus usable whatever, and if you look at it under one perspective of the total, the gross acreage, then sure, they're under. So which way are we going about determining what the real target with no density bonus under the master plan would be?
Yeah, so the ordinance specifically says the overall density of residential uses within a plan development shall be based on the density that could be achieved with the underlying zoning. So that's the parallel plan.
Right. So that's the 30 units.
That's the 30
so then
units.
We take that and multiply that by the 1.25 on future land use, and that's where we get our 38-ish units that would be considered not a density bonus.
Correct. That's the underlying zoning.
So that's where
But it allows you, in the same ordinance that Brian's reading from, the discretion, if there are these design features, you have the discretion to set density beyond what Brian or I would ask.
So. Personally, I don't know that I can give you a number, but to try and give more of my feel on it, I don't necessarily think that even the 60 units is something I couldn't go along with, but not without, that much more robust connectivity or some other, things to balance that out. Taking that into factoring in with that, I guess, the product type targeting, because assuming, pending CES or subconsultant reviewing the traffic things and saying, yes, it really is going to be that much lower, I don't think, when we write the master plan and say 1.25 single-family units, when we're talking about traffic concerns, to me it makes sense that that is basically based on, what would a typical standalone family of whatever house generate. So I could justify some bonus for you from that, and then you get some bonus from the connectivity. Where that puts us, I don't know. It's...
Well, here's what I suggest. I suggest you take the overall, what you got from the board, and then propose something that you feel good about. That's what I think. You've heard, everyone here has their own opinion on density. and I think you know what that is.
Yep.
So I think it's really, you're just going to have to take that ball and run with it.
Good. Can we come back to you one more time, or do we go back to planning and back to you? Planning doesn't want to make any decisions for you.
Can he come back here?
Depends
Can
on
he come back here? Brian, is it fine if he comes back here again, right?
Can he come back here first, or does he have to go planning?
If you want him to.
Because
sure.
planning's not,
I mean, but the
planning
thing is-
knows that's your decision.
Yeah, you're not going to, I mean, you're giving recommendations here, you're not giving.
No, it's not
any
final
formal
anything.
Direction, so if they want to come back and say, does this number work for you, you can review it again, that's
Well, I think a
absolutely
little
up to
more
you.
positive plan with some setbacks and some separation and exactly how it might look. And I think that maybe that's something we could look at.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That gives me what I need. I appreciate it. And thank you for all your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, we have one more conceptual review. This is Aspen Trail PD, AP 2259. Brian?
Thank you, John. Your second PD for discussion this evening is also a conceptual review for Aspen Trails, which is a 78 single-family home development proposed at Martindale between Grand River and Pontiac Trail. Rick, do you mind if I'm blunt about this project? Is that fair?
We've all, everybody has seen this project except for Robert.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to go through it fairly quickly, I'm good with that.
Okay, so I asked Rick that question because the crux of this project is the final approval was granted several years ago, an extension was granted, and ultimately the timing for another extension was missed. So the way we interpreted the ordinance was that the project needed to go all the way back through all 6 steps of the development again. So that's where we're at today. We're at concept review of a project that in theory already had its approvals through the township. So there aren't any significant changes. Well, there aren't any changes, period.
There aren't any changes, no.
Still the same number of units, still the same parcels of land incorporated, same locations of pathways and tree preservation and all of the items that we typically review. So at this point, the concept meets our existing zoning on the property. The one item is that the area is future land use planned for a less dense product than could be permitted under current zoning, which is a little unique. Typically, the whole project is master planned for single-family B, but the existing zoning, because it has multiple family, is denser than what is planned in the future. But that's a little out of the ordinary, but that's not an issue for me. The parallel plan is in place that shows they can have 78 units. That is what is shown on the proposed plans. You have no issues from me, no issues from the Planning Commission were raised. We are satisfied with the plan as is.
Okay.
Quick question for Brian. There is no road connection to the west, right? That is.
There is
the case.
not.
And I only asked because of a resident letter we received, and they're still going to pave Martindale, right?
My frontage correct in front of Mr. Bidwell's house.
Yeah, which is consistent with what was supposed to be done.
Correct.
Previously.
Correct.
So when you say that it is the same, it really truly is the same plan, just with new dates on it.
Yeah, we also have both sanitary sewer permits for the line extension and water permits now for the line extension. So basically this, and we have full engineering approval, but we have to go back through and look at the basin.
But I don't really think it's a modification. I think it needs
Because we built it for 2 100-year storms back to back. It's a huge basin.
Right.
So,
And I mean, the plan is still to work with the road commission to pave the gap in Martindale, correct?
I think we had that in the,
What was that?
Well, he
Budget.
paves the half of it, and then the township was going to
The
pave
gap.
from the southern.
Yes. That's right, down to
Pontiac
Pontiac
Trail.
Trail. I just wanted to make sure that's still the plan. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
and we have this was under contract with Pulte They were due to close, but unfortunately with the rate hikes and slowdown, they ended up pulling back out of it. So our intention was they were gonna buy it and move it forward. Unfortunately, they didn't, and I lapsed my approval.
Yeah, I don't have an issue.
So one point of clarification, that you're connecting vehicularly to Twin Pines,
Yes.
because that gets you, so it's not a long dead-end road.
Correct.
That still looks like the case. It's not going to be gated or anything. It
Nope.
is still going to be a connection.
Correct.
I saw a T turnaround on there, but that's probably temporary for
Yes.
construction. Or
Yeah, there's a cul-de-sac temporarily.
at the very north end where it
Yeah.
says T turnaround. I guess that's for
Bless
construction.
you.
I guess I just want to make sure that's still a vehicular connection to Twin Pines.
It is a vehicular connection.
Is it a T that will go in just so that's a turnaround point, but it's a through connection? So
That's
is that
what
a
it
fire department
looks
turnaround,
like.
basically, that will be built in Lower Main?
Sheet 3.
I mean, I could see us
looks that
keeping
way.
it there for construction, and then once it's turned over,
Right.
that being restored.
Isn't it because the Twin Pines is, are those roads private, maybe?
I don't
So
know.
if you had a county truck or something that you
They
turn
are,
around?
yeah, they are private, but we have an easement across there.
Oh, okay, but the road commission might require that to be
Yeah,
permanent.
maybe. Like an end county maintenance sign will be there, even though there really will be no county maintenance in there.
Ouch.
I'm just asking.
I know, I just... Okay. I just want to make sure it was connected, because so it's not a long dead end. Which is what I thought was on the original plan, so if nothing's changed, and I think that's fine. And there are a couple other things that were brought up in the letter about maintaining a 50-foot wide swath of trees, or that's still all the same.
All the same, yep. We have changed no lot lines or layouts on this plan compared to what was previously approved.
Okay.
Okay, since
So
nothing's
there's-
changed, I don't see what we can add.
I guess, I think this was in Leslie's letter about converting the Pontiac Trail frontage from a sidewalk to bike path width.
Oh, that was in
Or was it
my
your
letter.
Sorry, I knew I read it somewhere. So I wanted to get that stated, and then also ask about if you could look at the possibility of continuing the Martindale pathway frontage across the one parcel to the north, so that it would meet your total northern lot line.
I do not own that property. And
Just something to look at. I know you can't give me an answer right now, but
it's pretty
I think it's pretty heavily treed too.
heavily
So
treated.
It's
There's
topo,
I-
it's a bigger issue.
There's a
Okay.
grading and drainage issue we've already had to work on with the bid walls. I worked on with Rick for paving 11 mile. Oops. Paving 11 mile. And we needed an easement from them to basically get the grading to work. I couldn't get an easement from them, so I ended up curving that section of Martindale Road, that open ditch. So I'm gonna say the odds of me getting any kind of cooperation for a bike path to go across their property are slim to none.
okay, all right, good to know.
Okay?
Brian
Everybody
or
good?
Leslie, if that property that does not belong to you, if that were to ever be developed, would that just be like single-family homes that are on Martindale? Would that be?
It's zoned for multifamily,
Multifamily.
so it could be a townhomes or something like
Okay.
that. But regardless of what it is, as long as it's more than a single-family home, you're gonna get a pathway there.
Okay.
As part, or
So
a,
in
or a
theory,
trade-off, right?
At some point, if it were developed, there's an opportunity.
There's an opportunity, but like Rick
I guess I
alluded to,
also,
the
I mean,
grading's
there
super
is
challenging.
sidewalk through Twin Pines as well, right? Or is there? I don't. I'm just wondering, like, could we basically get around if someone were trying to traverse that space? I'm not in that map right now.
sidewalks on both sides.
Okay,
At least
perfect.
the one side.
So obviously, when you're connecting the road, you'd also meet up sidewalks there. So that makes that pretty good. Okay. Sorry, I'm done now.
Okay. What do you think? You got it now?
I'm good. Have a good night.
All right, we'll see you. All right, we're going to move on to the consideration approval resolution setting collection bin permit application fees. Pretty easy one. Carol, do you want to lead in anything on that?
Nothing much to say. We just had to have a
There is.
resolution setting the fee for the ordinance that we have adopted, and this is what was suggested.
That sounds nice. I'll make a motion that we approved Resolution 2022-31.
I'll support for the date of September, let me say December 5th. December 5th.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move on to consideration of the tree planting or preservation.
This one also, I'll make a motion to approve this one with the date of December 5th, Resolution 2022-32.
Support.
Of December, not September.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to approve the CDBG program. Resolution approving this.
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-33, approving the CDBG application.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we're going to move on to a bunch of supervisor appointments. To the Board of Review is the first one. And, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the supervisors' nominees for positions in the Board of Review.
I will support. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we have the downtown development, which I believe there's two that are up. Let's see, which ones were up?
Last two.
Okay. And I'd like to reappoint Mark Zerlag and Troy Powell.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we're moving on to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission, I'll tell you, I think the Planning Commission is doing a very, very good job, and we talk to everybody, and they'd all like to be reappointed. They have been on a month-to-month basis, and I would like to reappoint the Planning Commission.
John, while I have no objection, did you want to stagger these so they're not all coming up? Do you want to do like a couple 1 years, a couple 2 years, and a couple 3 years? Just so you know.
That's totally up to you. I don't have a problem with that, and I think it's a good idea.
I mean, I don't care which you pick.
Could we do that next time? And get this matrix set up for
I
that?
think that's how it was originally set up.
It was.
Because
Probably just
people
went a
carried
while,
over,
right.
you
It was,
got
and we
It just
hadn't
makes it
reappointed
easier, I think,
anyone.
to have only a couple at a time, but yeah, I don't
That was
have any objection.
going to be a general comment for all of these, is that if, at some point, if we can get all of them kind of set up on a staggered schedule again, would be
Well, I think this
good,
is
not
the only
right
one
now.
that
but-
isn't.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, the planning
No, I
commission
think right now everybody's kind of...
commented the other night that they want it to be staggered also. So,
Okay,
We can fix that.
so, should we adjust the term end date for this appointment then, so that we can do those staggerings like in a year from now instead of having everybody until 25, or does that not make sense?
I don't know if that even matters, does it?
I'm
Can
just,
do this.
because I
every-
don't know if we
You
can,
get ZBA for 1 year, John.
like, can we change, if we appoint them all for this now, can we change that later to say we're actually changing yours
What's
to be only the next year?
No, if you're pointing them, you're pointing.
Because that, I guess that's why I asked, should we just do, like, through today in 2023 tonight, and then next year we can get the staggering aligned?
Well, can we just do, I don't
We
know,
can just change a
23,
few of them
24,
right now.
25, 23, 24, 25, and
Just
call it good?
randomly pick them? I mean,
Well, I just went down
yeah.
the line like that.
Either way, I
And
just
just call it
don't
good,
want
and
to
then
kick
we-
the can to 2025 to start the staggering.
It's really
Well, I
not a
guess I
big
would do
deal.
it backwards, because Mike's the chair, so you probably going to start him with the 3, right? The 3-year term.
yeah.
And go
Okay.
down
Sure.
from there.
Okay, so I'm up for whatever you guys want to do. I have no problem. If you want to stagger them, and you want to just pick a couple here and stagger them, I'm good with that.
I just want to get to being staggered. However we do that, I don't care.
You guys want to do that tonight?
Yeah, we can stagger.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, let's take Carl Town, and what do you want to do with Carl? He's at 2025, you want to...
Well, you tell us.
Mike
You stagger them
Inflity
how?
should be first, so he's 2025.
Well, we're going to leave him
Okay.
at 2025.
24 for Carl,
You want to do 24 for Carl?
and 23, I mean, I think Chris had a good idea.
Okay, and then Radke,
25 for Chuck,
And 321.
Radke's 23, right?
you want to go to 2023 on Radke?
Well, Bronco's the newest, isn't he?
Yeah.
So should he be the 25? then?
Yeah, I'd like to leave him at 25.
All right, then you can reverse.
So 25, 24, 23, 23, 24, 25?
Yeah.
So 5, 4,
It's just staggered them, that's
Chuck 1,
fine.
Pennington 2, Bronco 3. Is that what you're saying?
So
Yes.
5, 4, 3, 3, 4, 5, if we're going down the
Yep.
row there? I like that.
All right, simple enough.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Okay. Going to move on to the next one. This is the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now, in the Zoning Board of Appeals, we lost one of our members, and we had Dave Talaga, who's here in the audience, put in an application willing to serve on this board, and I would like to appoint him. So I would like to appoint Dave Talaga on the board, on the Zoning Board of Appeals to 12/05/23.
John, that sounds great, and I would support that. I have a quick question. These are not staggered either, and I don't know...
These are all one-year appointments.
Okay. So
Is that right, Carol?
That for right now?
They don't have to be.
Oh, I thought you said the zoning board has to be 1 year. Okay, yeah, I'm good with staggering these out, too.
But I was just going to say, the board liaison would just go to the end of the term, I would
Right.
think. But the PC liaison wouldn't get appointed to this. The PC decides who goes, really,
Right.
not John. Right? I mean,
Yep.
he's on here, but
Yep.
really, the PC could change that.
They could.
At any point. So,
Yeah,
They
so
could.
that would be a one-year appointment.
so that would be, well...
Or are we allowed to just...
I don't think we get to pick the PC
Are we allowed to
liaison.
just like take the name
No.
off and say whoever the
Yeah, but they
PC
appoint
chooses
once
to
a
have
year.
go to the meeting?
They appoint once a
So I
year.
guess the question is, does the PC liaison even belong on here? Because this board does not pick the PC
Well,
liaison.
why don't we do this? Why don't we do
PC
this?
does, right?
Let's keep this one at 2023,
And deal
and
with
I'll
this
work
next
this up for the next appointments, okay?
I would make that motion, but I'm not the liaison to the ZBA, so I feel like I'd be stepping on that person's toes, so I'll just sit here.
I will make a motion then to approve the supervisor's appointment matrix for to Zoning Board of Appeals, including the appointment of Dave Talaga.
Support.
All right, we have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Thank you, guys. That was great. That was a lot to get through, and that was a good way to do it. Thank you. Okay, let's see. We're going to move on to the budget. Okay, the budget amendments. And look at this. We only have one. Can you guys believe that? One budget amendment.
It's pretty good.
That's fantastic.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2020 Fire Department Fund Budget Amendment.
I will support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we're going to move on to the last thing, the approval of the budget. And as you know, the new ones that came, they keep changing because they're in real time. So the bottom line changes a little bit, but I think that we've gotten through this thing and made most of the changes that were asked for. And if there's anything else that you guys want to do or see, I know there was a few things that Sean talked to me this morning. There was a couple little errors. We fixed them. Everything else, I think, is in order. As you can see, all of our budgets are in amazing shape.
Is this the same as...
I don't have any
Yes, it's
issues. I'm
exactly
good
the
with it.
same
The one
as
thing,
we
I was going to mention it earlier, but I didn't want to pull it off the consent agenda. I thought I'd mention now. I thought the schedule was nice. We added the additional federal holiday, and I thought that it made a good deal of sense to just close on that Monday, the 3rd. I just wanted to mention that it was just a good idea, because you would have been able to fire cannon through this place. No one is going to be doing any, that's going to be a natural long weekend, so
You're
I
absolutely
think it
right.
makes a great deal of sense to close that day, and I think that was a good idea. So I made a lot of motions tonight, but in the spirit of moving along, I will
I have
make a
some
motion
questions.
for discussion. No, okay, go ahead, sorry.
No, and I guess I see there's new budgets here tonight, but some of the stuff that I had that, that's my check. So there are a couple things I noticed in the general fund, board of review and ZBA wages. Those were different than what we had discussed at the budget meeting. I think those were
We
better.
fixed them.
Yeah,
Those are
Chris,
3%.
Sean-
They're fixed.
Sean called us.
Yeah, that's part of the Sean's call this morning, and he made that mention. We changed them all. The new one that you got printed should have all the right numbers.
The drains at large was another one that had changed by about 28%. I don't know if that was...
That's because that's the real dollar amount.
That is the real dollar amount.
That is the real dollar amount.
And that you might have the same answer for the citizens programs line item went from 25 down to 10. 25,000 down to 10,000?
Yes, because we were budgeting on, unfortunately, them going into the wrong line item number. So when I had sent you that information and said, here, we worked with Brian and his staff to say we're hitting the wrong account numbers, and I sent that whole little graph to you, and basically just said, this is going to be fixed, but we couldn't do it without making a bunch of changes in the general ledger, so that will be completed and sent to you.
And then the water fund, the DPW administrative assistant, I think it was just a typo in the set. It was
Right, it was
0.3%
reversed, so
instead
we
of...
fixed it.
Yeah, that was fixed too.
That's on my list, too.
That's on your list too.
Yeah, he got us that one too.
It had to be adjusted up, yeah.
It was a typo.
And, let's see. Okay, I guess if those have all been taken care of, I think that's it.
Sean was on it.
Well, better late than never.
I'll tell you, your eyes go together after you look at these too long.
I know.
I'm starting to have to do a lot of this, too.
I know.
Patty was talking about aging, but I'm right there with her. I have more gray hair than she has, too, for the record.
Okay, is everybody happy with what we got going here? I mean, every budget is in great shape, and it's due to the good jobs that everyone's done. I'm telling you, they're all in great shape.
I make a motion to approve the 2023 budget.
I'll support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, thank you so much. Well, that concludes our regular business, and if there's no further to do, I'm going to consider this meeting adjourned.
It's at 8:50.
Thank you.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Yeah.
Happy holidays to everyone.